Hi, you found us. This is the Richard and Judy Book Club in association with WHSmith. And what to say about this one? What to say? The Guilty One by Lisa Ballantyne. Described on the back as deeply psychological and suspenseful. One of the most talked about books of the year. Well, that's true for sure. It's about Daniel Hunter, who now in the present day is a very successful, although he tends to fight lost causes, solicitor. And one afternoon he's called to the local police station to represent a young boy called Sebastian. Sebastian is accused of murdering a younger boy. I think the age difference is 11 and 8. Overtones of the Jamie Bulger case, except it's a singular accused. And we discover very quickly that Daniel Hunter has something in common with Sebastian. He too was a deeply disturbed child, had a very, very strange upbringing. And we flip-flop from the present and the attempt to get Sebastian off and the discovery of how strange a boy he is, to the past and Daniel Hunter's strange childhood. It's a wonderful story, Lisa, and the way that Daniel Hunter, who we love as the hero of the book, as the solicitor, we love this constant counterpoint with him today and this damaged child that he was. Tell us a little bit about the plot. It's not really a murder mystery, is it?
No, I think the idea for the book really did come from the characters of Daniel, the solicitor, and his foster mother, Minnie, being in my mind. And so I really kind of discovered the story through that because I could see that Daniel was a solicitor working in London. And it was at that point I thought, if he was representing a child on trial for murder, that would throw his own troubled childhood into relief.
Indeed it did.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
So, and so it really is a sort of dual narrative. So the plot is dual in the sense that we have the trial and the building suspense of the trial progressing, but also discovering what happened to Daniel as a child. And
and how Minnie, who was actually his saviour, who saved him from a future which would have no doubt have been terrible, and actually was desperate to get him educated and made him into the successful young man he is today, nevertheless disintegrated, as we find very early on in the book, when he feels he can't forgive her for something to do with his previous life. I felt incredibly sorry for Minnie all the way through.
She's an angel. She's an angel.
She is.
She's a kind of a serial foster mother, isn't she? And Daniel, this little boy, isn't the first child that she's looked after, but they develop a very special relationship. Why do you think she became so close to Daniel in particular, after all the other children that she'd taken care of?
Well, Minnie herself has been driven to fostering because of a great deal of loss in her own life. And she's a woman on her own, and she's typically been sent female children. So Daniel, I think, is one of the first boys that she's had.
She lives on a farm in Cumbria. She runs a little small holding. Yeah.
But she's also, she used to be a psychiatric nurse, so she's someone who has a quite vast professional experience. And I think Daniel's range of problems, being a really quite violent little boy, really played into her skill set.
Well, he pulls a knife on his first evening at the farm, doesn't he? And he's amazed when she's not frightened. He says, "Aren't you frightened?" She's waving her. I've seen a lot more than that in my lifetime. Peel the tomatoes. It's extraordinary.
What's really interesting to me about the book is that although Daniel feels this kinship with the young boy Sebastian, who's accused of murdering an even younger child, they are from completely different backgrounds. Their backgrounds could not be more dissimilar. His mother was a drug addict, single mother. He kept running away from home and running back when he was in foster homes, running back to her. He was terribly poor. Sebastian, on the other hand, is an extremely well-heeled little boy from a, quote, successful family with a successful businessman father and a mother who is, as we find out, not quite normal.
But he's deeply creepy. He's a creepy kid.
But despite... So what I liked about it was the fact that you acknowledge that deeply disturbed children can come from completely different economic and social backgrounds.
I think that was deliberate, because I think I at the beginning I thought, if I'm going to do this, I would certainly want to make that point. And there are parallels, because Sebastian's mother is also a drug addict, really, in a more socially acceptable way. Daniel's mother had problems with violent boyfriends, and Sebastian's mother also has a violent relationship with her husband.
Yeah.
So there are those parallels, but certainly these are things I think that do exist in different social strata.
I was really impressed with, not that I'd have any expertise in this field, but it just struck me as being utterly believable. The detailed behaviour of both these disturbed boys. It read to me like something out of a casebook, except beautifully written. How did you research that? How did you get into the mind of a disturbed and violent child?
Well, the whole book had to be researched because it's I don't tend to write from my own life, from my own experience. So everything in the book was outside my comfort zone, from the locations, many of which I haven't visited.
Yes, I mean the farm is in Cumbria, and you say you've never even passed through Cumbria. You don't know it. Yeah.
Yes, and also the law. I'm not a lawyer, and also I'm from Scotland, Scottish. So Scots law and English law vary greatly. So
still not allowed to kill children though. We have that in common.
Very true.
So you must have spent ages on research then before you started writing.
No, it was much more organic than that. I was
As
just
you
sort
went.
of trying to, and then I'd hit a brick wall, and then I'd have to find a criminal solicitor to find out what happened.
But my original question was, how did you get the detail of this disturbed behaviour? Because it's very chilling in parts and threatening. How did you find that out?
I'm not sure. I think it was just from the characters. I read a little bit, but not too much.
Did you read about child killers? I mean, children killers.
I read, again, a little bit, but not a great deal. And then I think I just, because I think partly what I was trying to say is that a lot of things that we do as young children could have drastic consequences. I certainly didn't want to suggest that either of the children in the book are evil or
no, you make that clear that they are victims of circumstance
and things getting out of hand.
Yes,
in effect.
Yes.
That's true. Was it based to any extent? I mentioned in the introduction on the case of Jamie Bulger.
Possibly not so much, I think, because it's quite some time ago, but certainly there have been a few cases in the papers over the past few years, and certainly when I was starting to think about the book and when I had focused on Daniel as a criminal solicitor in London, I did start to reflect on some of the cases which have been in the papers over the past few years, and possibly stretching back as far as Jamie Bulger, and just the way that the press deals with trials like that, and how that can affect justice.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, we both feel this very strongly. It's not just a beautifully plotted book. I mean, it really is. It's so intricate. It all clicks beautifully into place. It's so well written. It's such a joy to read. You know, your prose is something else, and very, very accessible.
Thank you very much.
Many congratulations on it. It's a real piece of work. As I say, it's called The Guilty One, and this is Lisa Ballantyne. She wrote it. And if you go to the back of it, as you do with all the Richard and Judy books in WHSmith, you'll find all the extra content there. You know, the question and answer session that we have on top of this interview, how to download the podcasts, which include these interviews and other recorded material. And we now have a book club app. You just download that onto your smartphone. You go into WHSmith, you point the phone at the cover of the book that you're thinking of buying in our selection, and up pop Judy and I on your screen, having a little chat with you about what you'll enjoy about it, our kind of verbal review. So avail yourself of all of that and do enjoy The Guilty One. It's an absolute treat.